Okay, welcome back for another exciting session. Now we're going to talk about basically CO2 installations, CO2 racks for refrigeration in Colombia. This is a fast developing market for natural refrigerants that we haven't talked about much over the years. So it's exciting to have one of the market leaders join us today to tell us about his experience and you know how he sees the market developing over the coming years. So I'd like to welcome Richard Osma. He's the general manager of Weston and has been the general manager now for over 20 years. Prior to that, he was the manufacturing and production manager. He has led the company to offer turnkey solutions with latest designs and technologies, making Weston the regional leader with CO2 and propane. Maybe we'll be able to talk a little bit about the propane experience as well, if we have time. He holds a bachelor's in manufacturing engineering from Boston University and a postgraduate management degree from the INALDE Business School. So I'd like to welcome Richard and hand him over to over to you now to present your experience.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure meeting you and all the Atmosphere team. I feel very privileged to be with you today, and I hope I can express what we have been doing in the last 5 years about natural refrigerants. We follow your organization, and so for me, it's a very important day for me today to be with you.
It's a pleasure. I mean, we're at Atmosphere. We're always trying to get the latest movers and shakers across the world, right? So because we see this as a global movement. So when we have the opportunity to have industry leaders like yourself from markets that we haven't really covered in the past, this is exciting. So enjoy.
All right. So, as Mark said, we're a manufacturing company in Colombia. We're founded in 1961, so we're over 60 years old. We manufacture all supermarket equipment like cases, specialty cases, racks, condensing units, and we do the installations. We do the after service market. Basically, we started in 1961 with ovens. So we manufactured ovens for all type of processes. And also bakery ovens, and for example, for textiles, for plastics, for painting, and so on. This is a general slide of our organization. We're about 550 employees. We have 35 engineers. We have about 20,000 square meters worth of total space. We have done 16 installations with CO2. Throughout the years, we have exported to all countries in South, Central, and the Caribbean, in the Americas. So we are an old company, I guess. We have been very committed to sustainability. So we have installed already and manufactured cases, self-contained cases with R290. We have also made several installations for flowers, flower industry. Colombia is one of the main exporters of flowers. I guess we're number 2 in the world. So we have done several of those. And 5 years ago, we started with CO2, transcritical systems. At that time, it was very new in the world. So we started with a new technology and we bet everything on it. Up to date, we have done 16 installations. And right now we're working on 6 more that will be functioning by July of this year. These are just some slides and pictures of what we manufacture and what we do. So to have a better impression of who we are. On the left, there's a bakery oven, dairy cases, self-contained cases, retarder proofers. We do cases for meats, for fruits and vegetables, for fish, for frozen food, Also, we do for prepared foods, which it's a big item right now for us. And bigger supermarkets are going into this market very, very much. So we do the salad bars, bakery equipment, and hot and cold cases of that. These are some of the racks that we have installed. The lower racks are screw compressors and semi-hermetic compressors. On the right side, there are Teco racks already that we have been assembling here, partially assembling. All the electrical boards, electrical cabinets are made in-house. We do all the electrical parts. These are just some pictures of installations and commissioning of some of the CO2 jobs that we have done recently. And well, Teco, you know Teco much better than us probably. They are a leader, world leader in manufacturing of natural refrigerant systems. And they have more than 6,000 installations already functioning in the world. Our alliance started maybe in 2017. We met at a trade show, and then in 2019, there was much more compenetrating, and we started to install together some supermarkets and different chains. We want to have the solution for different retail chains in Colombia and the region. We were the first in Colombia to install CO2 transcritical systems. We were also first in many other countries in the world, I guess. At that time, it was a new technology, which was not really the final solution, let's say, as we see it today. There were many cascade systems. But right now that has turned around and has proven that we chose the right path. Some of the challenges we had beginning 5 years ago was it was not recommended by our providers or our components providers to install CO2 transcritical systems in the tropics. Our requirements inside the stores are different. We have higher humidities, relative humidities inside the stores. We have higher temperatures. Supermarkets turn off air conditioning at night. And so we have more challenges in that respect. There was lack of experience and technical support at that time. There was skepticism and people were scared about CO2 because of the higher pressures, I guess. We have no real incentives by the government to transfer to these natural refrigerants, as maybe in other countries. They're very difficult to get and a lot of time is required, and you have to project the job months in advance, 8 months in advance, and these businesses cannot wait that long. The low cost of the refrigerants, the F-gas refrigerants, is also a barrier because we get still R444, R507 still very cheap in the market. And also the energy, the cost of energy here, I guess, is less expensive than in many other countries, so that it's sometimes more difficult to justify just because of energy consumption, less energy consumption. Some of the benefits of using CO2, and we have advertised and our clients have realized, are the low carbon footprint. The return on investment cost is it's equal. If you make an installation with all the components for energy savings, it's about equal already. The cases for us and the systems are very much the same than a traditional refrigerant. The maintenance, because it's a new system and it has the latest components, well, we can have considerable maintenance savings also. It also is a good advertisement for our clients, because the advertisement that they are using friendly refrigerants, and they're friendly with the environment. That helps them also. All these 16 installations have all the saving energy technologies normal in the market, like LED lights. In many cases have doors, electronic expansion valves, variable speed drives for the compressors, and DC motors for gas coolers and cases also. Colombia is in a geographical unique situation. We're close to the equator, and so it's a tropics. So we have all the temperature ranges, let's say, because there are 3 mountain ranges that go through the country. So we have the population lives on the mountains. We have three. We can divide it in 3 altitudes. Let's say the cities that are above 2,500 meters, cities that are between 1,200 and 1,400 meters above sea level, and cities that are at sea level or close to it. The first one is this slide, where we have done several installations in Bogota or close by. This city is at 2,500 meters above sea level. Ambient temperatures are always between 10 and 20 degrees Celsius. These racks always, 99% of the time, operate at subcritical operation. This means that it's very easy to justify the transcritical systems. We have found 30% energy savings very common in these installations. The middle cities, let's say, that are in the middle of the altitude ranges I spoke before, temperatures range between 23, 25 to 32, 35 degrees Celsius. These racks operate in transcritical mode between 70 and 80% of the time. But we have also found that we have gotten 20 to 25% energy savings in these stores. The last set of stores are at sea level, where the ambient temperatures are always high. The temperatures might be between 25 and 35, 45 degrees Celsius. These stores always have a parallel compressor in the racks. In the middle range, it's optional, but we have installed them also at that range. These racks operate 99% or 95% of the time at transcritical mode. So it's at their peak of performance of all the accessories and all the elements used. All these 16 stores that we have done, half of them maybe or less are new stores. The other half are retrofits, we call. And retrofit means that our stores that are 20, 25 years old, they have a rack with R22 functioning. They're old racks, but some do and some don't have energy conservation strategies like variable speed in compressors or electronic expansion valves. But the sales area, the cases and the cold rooms, mainly the cases, have been refurbished or remodeled every 7 to 8 years. So those stores, we have remodeled some that are 2 or 3 years old, so they look new inside. The cases are perfectly fine. And so to justify this conversion, sometimes in these retrofits, it's more difficult. So I think it's unique also. Our company has taken those cases and changed evaporators and cold rooms, and try to utilize as much as possible in these stores to make the initial investment more accessible and justifiable to change the system in these stores. Another accessory or option that we install in all stores are the valve stations, which are on the right here. That picture on the right, it shows the medium and low temperature manifolds. We install them in all stores, new and old, but in the older stores, we have found that it's very beneficial because we can start the system at partial loads. All these stores, I forgot to tell you, are refitted or remodeled with the public in sight. So they never close these stores. They're open. So it's very difficult to just turn them off and just turn on the next day. So this is a operation that probably takes 15 days while you take in cases and turn off other ones. So in this period, we have the two systems, the old system and the new system functioning at the same time. This is also something that we have a lot of experience in, and that makes it more viable for supermarkets to change technology and to change to a CO2 system. This alliance with Teco, we're very enthusiastic about this. We are going to manufacture racks here with the Teco brand. It's a joint venture. Teco will provide all the R&D, technology, and engineering, the manufacturing and product quality supervision for these racks, and also they will be adapted to tropical climates, since we have together witnessed already what things work better than others. No? In Weston, with this joint venture, we'll provide the refrigeration equipment, the cases, the evaporators, the experience also of manufacturing racks for some time. We have our own installation and personnel and commissioning, and also the after-sales support. Some of the projects that we have done in the last years are some of these. These slides just talk about what the capacities of the racks were, if they had a parallel compressor or not, in what cities they were. But of these late projects, there are two that I would like to talk about, which are kind of special to me. They were done at the end of last year. One is Ejectors Sabana. It's in Villavicencio. It's one of the ones that are in the medium range temperature. This rack, this installation was done. Since it's a retrofit, they wanted the same amount of cases, the same amount of length of everything. So the load, when you see the top, it was less. Let's say it was 15% less, just because they didn't have doors before. In this installation, we placed doors. But the power consumption went down from 121 kilowatts to 82 kilowatts. 32% of the savings were reached. If we would have installed the same rack, let's say, with the same cases open, well, we would have reached a 21% power reduction. So this is this is common. We have had very good experiences. It's just not the CO2. All the other strategies are important, but this is measured in the rack. So this is something that is real, that is working right now, and is 5 months old, let's say. Another installation, which was very interesting, was thanks to this new venture with Teco and us, and we have the plant here, we're local. We were able to do a store in 40 days from order to inauguration. This was before Christmas, so it was very important for the client to open the day he required. It was the 1st of December, I guess. And so this was very special because we did it, and we had to work 40 days, day and night in installation, and many times in the plant also to be able to do this. This is probably what I had for you to see. I don't know if you have any other questions, Mark, about what I have said, or.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Richard. So we got plenty of time for questions now. So let me just explain to the participants that are watching this. If you're on the Atmosphere platform, Now you can either raise your hand. There's a little button at the bottom where it says raise your hand, and you can ask a question to Richard, either verbally, or you can submit a question in the Q&A section, which is the button immediately to the right. That's for the people that are on Atmosphere, the Atmosphere events platform. If you're watching us on YouTube or on R744.com or LinkedIn, you won't be able to ask questions directly, unfortunately. Okay, so I have a few. Retrofitting. I mean, you see that retrofit market for food retailers is actually a huge as the way to go for you to enter with CO2, because retrofitting, if it's just a simple remodeling, then unlikely. But if you're going, basically, you can have a retrofit where you're changing 90% of the system, then there's a clear opportunity for CO2 to enter, right? So is this something that you think is the way forward for you to grab market share with CO2 in Colombia?
Well, really, it depends on what system the supermarket has at the moment. And in these that we have done, or many of these are with very old systems, like 20, 25-year-old racks. So these are systems that really it's time to change. These supermarkets have been they're upfront in the way they look in the sales area, their decoration, they're very nice looking. All the cases are many times new, but they have not really advanced with their machine room. So in these cases, I think it's very important to try to reutilize what they have, and not only change change everything because
you need to just go, if you've got a glass of water.
Sip of water. I'm sorry.
I'm going to join you on that one. Okay.
So really, it depends on the client, I guess. But this is something that we were presented with, and we had the opportunity to do. And I think we're unique, but we try to reutilize as much as possible, no? And that makes it easier for the client to spend the money, no? And have our ROI that is what they want to have, no?
There's a question about the return on investment that I just saw that was submitted, but I just want to, I just want to throw out a few in the meantime. It's like you've done over 16 projects now in these last 5 years that you've been working with Teco. Okay, so you clearly saw there was a movement, and back in 2016, 17, that was quite that was forward looking. Okay. That was just when the EU F-gas regulation had just been implemented the second time around, and it was really about to kick off the market in Europe. And you said you were the first to implement CO2 in Colombia. So you've done 16 plus stores, right? Projects. Correct. Most of these are food retail, correct? Or are there some industrial in there?
No, up to now we have done only the stores.
Food retail. Yeah. Okay. And how many stores are there in Colombia? Do you have a rough number?
Well, there's chains that have 400 stores. Others have maybe hard discount. There's maybe 2,000, and other medium type stores maybe another 1,500. I'm talking just chains that have those stores, no? So there's quite a few. I guess the formats are always becoming smaller now. We have less hypermarkets. The hypermarkets that are, many are just refurbished, no? And they're remodeled many times. They remodel probably every 7-8 years. So they change all the appearance inside of the sales area. But many times their machine room and their back room are not put to date, let's say. So that's what we find with some clients.
There's 48 million Colombians, right? It's a big population. 50 million. Yeah, it's a big population. Yeah, it's a big population. That's a lot of people to feed, right? There's got to be, there must be at least 10,000 plus stores in Colombia, right? So you.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
There are many mini stores, let's say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of informal commerce also. So people do not, we have not a penetration of supermarkets as much as in other countries, let's say.
Sure.
Supermarkets.
But the point here I'm trying to get at is that there's a huge market ahead of you. And you're trying to positioning yourself as the market leader through this alliance with Teco and obviously your own local expertise. So you see a huge future for CO2 in Colombia, correct?
Yes, I see it very much. It depends also because, well, for larger stores is the correct solution. No, in a certain size, that we have found that it's the only solution really. Economically and technically, let's say, but in the smaller stores, sometimes the initial cost prohibits a little bit the use of CO2. That's where maybe R290 has come in, no, and maybe there's a space there for R290 where CO2. I don't see the solution, but maybe you have more experience in the world. I've heard that some people are using CO2 in much smaller installations, even in self-contained cases. No, I heard that in Japan they use CO2 instead of R290.
Yes.
So I think we see a bright future for CO2. I guess as time goes on, we will see more smaller installations, more single units, let's say single compressor units with CO2. We have not installed it yet or done it yet, but we see that there's many probabilities going that way forward.
Okay, I have Peter Jones that has raised his hand, so I'm going to allow him to talk and ask you a question. Yep, over to you, Peter.
Unmute.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yep.
Right, I found the unmute button. So I'm really interested in your retrofits. So what difficulties did you have kind of starting up those CO2 systems? You've got a store on existing Freons. I'm now introducing maybe one or two largish racks for CO2. But now, obviously, because I've got a live store, how do you now start up one of those racks by taking a small run of cases out and putting it on CO2? What sort of difficulties did you have?
Well, I'm not the person that does the actual commissioning, but I know we have to have a partial load, a minimum percentage.
Yeah.
And medium and low temperature. It has to be correct. The most difficult part is to coordinate with the store. It's like a chess game. What sections they give you and what sections not. And we always usually have to have extra cases, let's say, that are placed in front of some other cases. So we sometimes rent cases that go in front, self-contained, so that they don't lose their sales.
Okay.
These cases, it's not very much, we may maybe for a larger store, maybe we have maybe 10 or 20 meters worth of cases, length cases, to cover those days where you need to have some time to put in the cases in back, the new ones. Or sometimes we put the older cases in front and put the newer cases in back, if you're going to change it.
Okay.
If you're going to use the existing cases, well, there's the problem where you need maybe a case that is as a loan, so that, or a rented case, so that you can change the evaporator and do what you have to do, and the correct processes for installation of pressurizing and vacuums and all this. So there's a lot of work to do, but these stores, where none of them have closed, they're always open to the public. So I guess we're also used to this type of work.
Excellent, thank you.
So you got your answer there, Peter?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
I might be stealing some of those ideas.
Ah, very good. That's how
In
we
the
spread
cold rooms,
knowledge.
it's much easier because you have to just put the new evaporator and install it. And once you put the CO2 system in to work, then you just disconnect the other one. The valve stations are very important because that helps you do things partially, you know, in these stores.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Peter. So now we got 4 questions to go through, and feel free for the other participants to submit questions or raise your hand. Okay, I'll go through the first. I'll start with the first one that I can see. How many stores use R290 cases? Do you use just R290, and are these smaller stores? So on the propane side, what, you know, how many of them actually got propane? Is it just propane, and are these for the smaller stores or also large, medium to large? Well,
in the larger stores, the islands, let's say the islands, the frozen food islands, we practically do not build anymore the remote islands, let's say.
Okay.
We use self-contained islands, and these are all R290, and some have variable speed motors. So they're very efficient. They're very easy. There's no installation, so there's nothing to be done there. The other cases we have done in the pictures you saw before, maybe the self-contained cases that go in the store that have wheels, or the prepared food cases or salad bars, those all come with R290. Something particular that we did last year was we won a project with the United Nations to install 8 stores with R290, and these were practically cases, supermarket cases with a compressor inside, length to 2.5 meters with 350 grams for every 2.5 meters. And this was done for four supermarkets. They were donated by the United Nations, and they bought through us. And they also paid for the consultant for us to certify them for the usage and for the manufacturing process and the design we did. The other 4 stores were a cascade, let's say, cases of 11 meters long with doors. There was a condensing unit with a propane compressor. These went up to, I think, 2 kilograms or 3 kilograms, or maybe less. I'm not sure right now, but it wasn't a very large charge, as we have used in condensing units for flowers. In these jobs, we had a small pump and pumped water glycol to the case. These we did 3 or 4 projects like that. So we're just starting out with this new strategy for small stores, let's say. Okay. So you are positioning yourself also to be able to supply stores with propane units in addition to CO2. Well, we see a market for small stores, convenience stores. Where right now we do not have a solution in CO2. Maybe we're working on that as well, but we don't see it as clearly. And the things that we heard about in the world, we do not see anybody doing that. No, in a one compressor unit, a CO2 transcritical system. No, so right now we see the near future with R290 in those small installations. Okay. All right. Another question. Do you use or consider using ejectors for sea-level stores? Yes, we have looked into that. We have not done it yet, but of course we're looking into that, and we will adapt to them very quickly. We were trying to wait to see what other experiences we heard about, But of course, we're looking into that right away.
Okay.
In the very near future.
Okay. Are the six, you referred to six upcoming stores, are they new or retrofit?
These 6 stores, well, we can call 4 of those are going to be new.
Okay.
2 are going to be retrofit. Yes, and there's another possible 7th store that will be new also. No, I'm sorry, that one will be retrofit. That's a larger store. Some stores are much easier. This 7th one I'm talking about will be, they turn around the whole store. It's a hypermarket. It's a cash and carry store, I think you call it. And they're going to put the refrigeration opposite where it is right now. So that will be like a new store. You know, it's going to be very easy.
Okay. One additional question regarding return on investment. When you say that the ROI for transcritical CO2 is equal, what do you mean? Equal to ROI for other refrigerant systems, or is the ROI for the entire cost? And how long is the ROI?
Well, I'm talking about installations where you have the option to install a 507 refrigerant or a CO2 system. If you compare the cases and the evaporators for cold rooms, they're very similar. The prices are not very different. The installation costs, copper tubing, is very similar because in one you use larger diameters, but with a thinner wall. In the CO2 you use smaller diameters but thicker walls. So let's say they're comparable. The difference lies in the rack. If you use a 507 rack or a CO2 with the same strategy of energy savings, let's say you use the same variable speed, the same expansion valves, electronic. So there's not going to be much higher cost there. Where the cost is, where we have found it, is maybe in the gas coolers are more expensive, and where the gas coolers and the sensors in the cold rooms for CO2, since it's not required for other F-gas refrigerants, those are expensive. No, if you have 2 equivalent installations and you look at the 2, the prices are very similar. You know, maybe 10-15% sometimes more expensive in CO2, but this difference is very fast. You can have that investment returned to you because of the lower refrigerant cost, because of the savings in energy consumption, depending on the climate, of course, ambient temperatures. So that's why I believe that the return on investment is very similar, or it's very the same right now. You know, the costs are not much. And if you reutilize cases, well, sometimes it's faster even, no?
Even faster, yeah. So Colombia has ratified the Kigali Amendment, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. So has that helped in changing people's mindsets in Colombia to say, okay, we have to move away from high GWP refrigerants? Has that helped you to convince end users to move towards natural refrigerants? Is that part of the conversation?
Well, basically what we find is that we have clients that have home offices or come from other countries, let's say, and they're more conscious of this new refrigerant tendencies in the world.
Yes.
With local chains and smaller operations, it is maybe sometimes more difficult to justify this extra cost. And if the installation is not very big, it's even more expensive because they are not used to maybe having those energy strategies, less savings, let's say expansion valves, expansion valves, and sometimes doors are even sometimes not used. So if you do not use the other strategies, it's more difficult to justify the higher expense of CO2. So with these chains, it's a little bit more difficult to justify this. And the high discount stores, it also is a little bit more difficult to justify this extra cost. So it just depends on the client and what kind of store he has. No, I guess in what we have seen in the distribution centers, that's a good opportunity to use CO2. It's a less initial cost, let's say, compared to other solutions. No?
Okay. Are there some end users that say to you, "Oh, there are not enough players in Colombia offering CO2 solutions. It's too risky for me to go to CO2. It's not a trusted technology." Do you get that? Do you get that in conversation still today?
No. Right now we have a lot of competition, so everybody wants to be here, and I guess once you start, everybody wants to do the same. So there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of different brands that are here. No.
Yeah. There's a.
So we're not alone.
There's a few well-known ones. No. But I'm guessing that it's better for you that there is some competition, because then ultimately the end user will see that they can play on service, price, and so forth, right? And
the competition is good for everybody. It helps promote more of this new technology.
And that's very new, right? That's in the last 2 years, right? That's really happened.
Really, we didn't have really competition, let's say up to a year and a half ago. Now there's many players, let's say, to get the same clients. And there's more, I guess, in Colombia, there have been maybe double the installations that we have done in the last year. So it's growing very quickly. As I said, we're working on 6 new projects, maybe 7. And we see this exploding in the future. And this is not only here in Colombia, but other countries nearby are all doing the same. So this is something that will be much more common, let's say, in the future.
Which markets do you see being leaders in the uptake of CO2 in food retail in Central and South America? Which ones beyond, after, with Colombia, which countries do you see having the most potential from your perspective?
I think all of them will
all of them, but there's got to be a few that are standing out.
Well, I believe now Mexico is going forward very quickly. I know that when we started 5 years ago, many chains of Mexico came here to see the installations of CO2. They traveled to Colombia, so I know they didn't have any. It took them 2 or 3 years afterwards to start. And I think now they are starting to have this installed in their stores. Even all countries, I think, are quoting this new systems. Even Ecuador and I'm not sure Peru, but in Brazil, Argentina has several installations already. Even Venezuela, you believe it or not, they're quoting to have CO2 systems also. So even it's something Venezuela. Even Venezuela. So I think it's something that is not going to stop. When we talked before with our providers of components and compressors, there was some reluctance that maybe this would not be the way to go. No, we're talking about the States with R744 and all those transitional refrigerants were in the solution of them, and they were not believing in the transcritical, and we were convinced 5 years ago that would be the way to go, and we're happy it did. So we bet on the right course, I guess.
Yeah, but you went to Euroshop, you said in 2017, right?
Correct.
So that was already, you could already see at Euroshop in that year that what's every 3 years, but that was the one before. Okay, the last one was in 2020. The one before was 2017. So yeah, that show you could already see a lot of players moving to CO2. And I guess did you see that? Was that where you kind of thought, oh wow, this is a real global phenomenon. We've got to pay attention to this. We can't miss out on this opportunity. Is that where you saw the light, or you already felt that there was something coming before?
Well, we have our providers talk about all the new technologies. We have them coming and talking with our engineers and telling what's going on in the world. So we also receive a lot of information that way. And when somebody tells you that the compressors that they're making right now are 80% transcritical and 20% F gases, that means that there's a tendency, and you can't stop that. No, that's happening right now. But let's say you see it in all components and everybody where they're heading to. No.
Yeah.
So that's like a general snowball that you have to go on. If not, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, but it's interesting because, you know, in Colombia, you're looking at what's going on in Europe, you're looking at what's going on in the US, I guess, right, as well. And they weren't transitioning to naturals in the same way or at the same speed. So it was, I guess you could have thought, okay, is this a serious thing? Is this a Europe only thing, or is this like a global potential? You know?
Yes, that was an interesting what you say, because if you talk 5 years, 6 years ago, I would go to the States, the manufacturing companies, and they were just having 1 or 2 installations, and they were trying them
prototypes.
out, and they were not sure what way to go. And really, it was they didn't believe in this, as much as Europe already had experience, let's say 20 years already with this type of technology. So it was very interesting how this has changed everything, and I think the United States is playing catching up, and they're very fast to be able to be at the same level, in the same amount of installations, but they go very fast. They
will. Yes, absolutely. No. It's gonna be interesting dynamic, all of this. All right, we've got about 10 more minutes to go, and I see that there's a couple more questions that have come out. So if anyone wishes to raise a hand, now's the moment as well. But until then, let me start off with another question. So do you supply distribution centers with transcritical CO2?
Correct. We have quoted already some. This is something that we're very, very well and very. There's no problem in doing this. This is something just the same. It's a little bit bigger, or maybe you use 2 racks, but it's the same than the supermarket stores, I guess.
Okay. So you see a lot of potential there too.
Oh, correct. Very much.
Yeah. Okay. Training, knowledge. Are there sufficient technicians with CO2 expertise and knowledge in Colombia?
Well, when you're the one that starts, well, there's nobody really, so we have to train our own technicians. We used maybe some providers of compressors and things like that have knowledge, or controls people that also have some knowledge. This is acquired like that. It's not something. We were the first ones to install the parallel rack. No, I was the one that did the commissioning, let's say 30 years ago. So when you're the first one, you have to call everybody and find out things, read manuals, and that's the way you get ahead. But right now, the things are changing. There are training centers right now with a CO2 system for training technicians here in Bogota. There's also much more. Once it starts, when we started out, it was difficult to get the CO2 with the right purity that was needed.
So these training centers, are these like national organizations, or are they company-specific training centers?
No, they're trade schools, let's say.
Okay.
It's a government financed or semi-financed by the government. So they're very good technical schools, and it's basically is that, and also there's an ASHRAE chapter here in Colombia, which also gives courses and has teachers that partake all this knowledge that has to be given.
And there are specific courses for CO2 and other natural refrigerants?
I heard of one now. I'm not sure they have them all the time, but I know there's going to be one now in a couple of weeks, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how much it is going to be hands-on or what they're going to cover, but it's something that it's knowledge that is passed on from one to another. I guess that's
All right.
that's the best
So,
way.
but you still, so that means that the internet is a very powerful way to learn still in Colombia, right?
Oh,
It's like, but on CO2, there's a huge wealth of information out there on the internet that you can digest easily. So
yes, I think also in the younger generation are used to this, so they absorb everything very, very fast.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the younger generation. A lot of people that work with natural refrigerants, you know, they have kids, and they think about the impact they're having on the planet and how they want to leave, at least try and make an effort to try and make it less bad for the kids from a climate point of view. Is that something that matters to you as well and to your employees? Are you conscious that, you know, are you proud of the fact that you're going to working with CO2 and you know that you're doing the right thing? Is that something that you talk about as a team, talk about in the industry, talk about it with your customers and families?
Yeah, this is something that we promote very much. We try to be socially sustainable as an organization, so we have extra benefits for our employees. Even our uniforms for the plant have pioneers at CO2 installations. That's a big sign. So for us, it's something very important to be part of it and to promote it. I guess it's something that will not be stopped. You know, here even the electrical cars are well, I don't know if it's booming, but they sell every time many more than before. And we don't have even charging stations where you can go very easily with an electric car. So people and the younger generations are into this climate responsibility or carbon footprint responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned cars, right? Don't quote me on this, but I'm sure that if every cooling and heating application in the world was to go to natural and move away from high GWP HFC synthetic refrigerant, that would be far more impactful than cars going electric.
Correct.
The cooling industry is so much more impactful potentially there than going from an internal combustion engine to an electric vehicle. Don't get me wrong, it's a good thing, but the potential is so much greater with the cooling industry, and yet people don't even think about that.
Yes.
But yeah,
there's an advertisement I think we have done because of some that so many. I don't know. I'm just guessing what we calculated, but in 6 or 7 installations of CO2 equals maybe 20,000 cars running 20,000 kilometers a year. So that's a very important number to not to promote with the clients. But there really is a very high impact.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. All right, well, it's great to have you present today. I think I learned a lot. I've never been to Colombia personally. I really wish, I look forward to going and learning more. And I hope that the people who've watched this across the internet today and in the coming days will also be curious and wanting to learn more about what you're doing, Richard, in Colombia and South and Central America. So well done for stepping up and leading. We need more leaders like yourself in this industry.
Thank you for your kind words, Mark. It was very enjoyable for me to meet you today, and you're welcome to come and visit us whenever you want, and everybody else from your organization. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Have a great day.